You know, I don't think people are really interested in the database, are they? It's so trivial.
VT running!
What's the matter?
You're just looking a bit too pink.
Can't have that. What will the Daily Telegraph say?
I mean, all those questions about, are we creating a police state? I trust we can do without those, can't we?
Now, come on, Jim, you know me. I don't give out my questions in advance.
The Home Secretary has announced plans to give the police more powers to check what people are doing online.
Good evening. Is Big Brother watching you? To be more precise, did you know that the government is building up a dossier on you? It's called by the harmless-sounding name of National Integrated Database.
Internet providers would have to keep records of people's basic online history and then hand it over to the authorities if required. It's all part of a sweeping overhaul of Britain's investigatory powers, an overhaul which the government says will improve accountability and oversight.
So, for example, we won't be requiring communication service providers from the UK to store third-party data. We won't be making the same requirements in relation to data retention on overseas CSPs. And crucially, Andrew, and this is where I take a little bit of contention with what you've just said, we will not be giving powers to go through people's browsing history.
OK, here is how it will affect us and the media. Investigatory powers bill could lead to video shot by reporters being accessed remotely by police or their phone microphones used as a bug. Peers have issued a serious warning that the government's proposed Snoopers Charter law could endanger journalists and their sources. The House of Lords heard a strong cross-party plea that greater protection for journalists' sources was needed in Theresa May's investigatory powers bill, which seeks to extend the powers of state surveillance. Ministers heard that the powers could lead to footage filmed by journalists of riots or demonstrations that turn violent being accessed remotely by the police, despite safeguards in the bill that such state hacking would only be warranted in cases involving national security or serious crime. They also heard warnings that safeguards in the bill were too weak to protect the confidentiality of journalistic and other sources from being identified through police and security service access to communications data, including phone and internet connection records, which will track an individual's web history. Do I have to be suspected of a crime to be surveilled? Not necessarily. Because the bill allows bulk collection and retention of phone calls, messages and emails and internet browsing history, you don't have to be a suspect to be monitored.
That's why it's so important that we make sure that our police and our agencies have the powers for them to be able to deal in the digital age. And as you yourself have said...
My question was slightly different, which is, what is the security that you can offer people that once this information is stored for 12 months, it won't simply leak out again?
Well, what I was going to say, Andrew, if I may, and then come on to that point, is, as you yourself have said this morning, looking at these issues is about a balance. And that's why it's so important that we ensure that there is proper oversight, but that the police and the security services are able to operate in this new digital age.
Recently, there's been mounting concern over this powerful, even totalitarian weapon that the computer revolution has put into the government's hand. And the man who wields the weapon is the Minister for Administrative Affairs, the Right Honourable James Hacker MP. Now, Minister, are you laying the foundations of the police state?
You know, I'm glad you asked me that question.
Well, Minister, could we have the answer?
Well, yes, of course. I'm just about to give it to you, if I may. Yes, as I said, I'm glad you asked me that question because it's a question a lot of people are asking. And why? Because a lot of people want to know the answer to it. And let's be quite clear about this without beating about the bush. The plain fact of the matter is that it's a very important question indeed. And people have a right to know.